Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings. Good evening. Good evening. Today we're going to discuss um, the ethnonym black. We're going to find out what that means. What does that mean? One thing y'all have learned from me in this relatively short time I've been on X, having a blast, by the way, uh, is that words are important. Words have meaning. Um, we need to understand the meaning of words. Matter of fact, the Egyptians say that the universe was created with words. I have it tattooed on my arm. There's something y'all probably never heard of called the Shabaka Stone, which some say was inspiration for the Bible, for Genesis. Let there be light. There were scriptures before that. It's really beautiful. I'm paraphrasing it, but it goes a little like, in the beginning there was darkness, and then the darkness began to breathe. Then the darkness realized it could do what it. Then the darkness began to dream. Then the darkness realized it could do what it dreamed about. Let there be light. Well, the creator, God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Jehovah, whatever you want to call him. I'll scratch that. I'm not going to use Jehovah. My bad. I wasn't thinking and just slipped out. Um, the creator, let's stop right there. Created the universe with words, with vibrations. So words are very, very, very important. Remember, vibrations create light. People like to say light's first. Wrong. Vibrations are first. You know, you take a piece of steel and you rub it on the concrete, you're gonna get spark. The spark is light. You get it? Well, enough of the deepness. We're gonna talk about what that really means. Does black mean melanin? Is that what it means? And last but not least, I got a treat for y'all. I've been holding on to this for a while. Who killed MLK? You see, one of my oh shoot, my bad, Wani. One of my I'm just, I've lived in Memphis and I met with Judge Joe Brown. Judge Joe Brown actually came to my school, and Joe's a cool cat. But Joe taught me some things about the assassination of Dr. King that didn't add up. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get into that. And I'm gonna give y'all on Dr. King's birthday a rare treat. So get out your pen and paper. So, first and foremost, is the ethnonym black defined by dark skin? What does that mean? Does that mean, you know what I'm saying? If I was jet black and I was from India, am I black? You know what I'm saying? If I was from sub-Saharan Africa and I'm jet, dark, am I black? What is black? Wani Spots, what's black? What that mean?
Well, if you were from Cuba, right, and
Right.
you were dark-skinned Cuban guy, and you had a friend that was a light-skinned Cuban guy, would you be more Cuban than him?
No.
Mm-hmm. So all Black Americans were called colored and Negro, and we weren't more Negro or more colored than anyone. This word black is something we adopted. It doesn't have anything to do with color. It has to do with us as a people. And so when these outsiders get a hold of it, they don't know what it means. They don't know what it comes from. A lot of the problems that we have with foreigners is that they don't know anything about anything. They don't know anything about racism. They've never been around white people. They
Preach.
may have just seen a white person you know, as a tourist passing by, never saw them, never went to school with them. So they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know where the word comes from, and they think it simply means the color. It means a whole lot of things. It's something that we adopted. When we heard that white people were white, we decided to be the opposite of white because being white and being a Negro, that's not really opposites, is it? Colored is not the opposite of white. Negro is not the opposite of white. Mulatto is not the opposite of white. The only thing that's the opposite of white is black. And we decided to be the opposite of white. It has nothing to do with color, it has to do with character. It has to do with our position and our way of being in this system. And that's the difference. That's what black means. And somebody coming over here that's tan or brown, calling themselves black because they've been treated black. I've heard people, foreigners, even some foreigners from uh, islands off of, I think it was China, and they look like black girls, and they actually were models, supermodels, and people were calling them black. And they
Wow.
weren't black, they were Chinese, but they just didn't look like the typical Chinese person, probably some, ethnic group or whatever. But they weren't black, they didn't know what it was, and they thought it was bad. They didn't want to be called it. It's bad to them because they don't know what it means. Okay? And it's built a lot of social clout. So it's not going to be replaced by anything because no other terminology has that ring. So love it or not, it's here to stay.
Well, one thing I like, one of the main thing I liked everything on it said, but one thing I really loved is she said diametric. She said opposition. So, and she said decide. Words. Those words are so special. Decide. We decided. What do the judges say? Stare decisis. It's decided. That's power. We decided that we black, and black is diametrically opposed to white. So we took a stance. Isn't that powerful, ladies and gentlemen? I would say we are the only group, well, one of the only groups who took a stand and said, you know what? I don't want to assimilate into whiteness. Ladies and gentlemen, I would argue that over 95, maybe 98% of other ethnic groups assimilate into whiteness, or it's their goal, their lifetime achievement to assimilate into what is called so-called whiteness. The only groups that I historically can see and prove that went the other way were us, foundational Black Americans, and the Russians. The Russians are really happy being Russian, but that's a whole nother podcast, whole nother stage, right? So let's jump into it. Um, what is this? What is blackness? Blackness is a perfect combination of all colors. I said it, and I meant it. You've been lied to. When you look at the color spectrum, um, as expressed by temperature, color temperature. What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is color is expressed through temperature. Any firefighter knows this. When you see a red flame, that's about 500 degrees, right? Y'all know this. Y'all barbecue. Those coals are about 500 degrees, 550, somewhere around in there. When it starts to turn bright yellow, you're dealing with about 1,000. Get it? Now, when you start getting sunlight, that perfect whiteness, the color from the sun is 5,500 degrees Kelvin. Those BMW and Lexus headlights is kind of light blue is 6,000 Kelvin. You get it? Now, something strange starts to happen. How do I know this? I used to teach physics. I had a blast, taught it 2 years. Um, something strange starts to happen as you get higher in temperature, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all know what happens? The color gets darker. How do I know this? I have an Acura, and I bought some headlights to try to be fancy, and I turned them up from 7,000 Kelvin, which is bright blue. I turned them suckers up to 12,000 Kelvin before they popped, and they got dark purple, and that got my attention. And then it dawned on me that there are colors outside of our perception. 55,000 degrees Kelvin is appears to be jet black, but it's just a color that we can't perceive. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say the most powerful colors cannot be seen with the naked eye, and y'all already know that. What's the most powerful thing in the universe? Somebody tell me. A black hole, right? Can you see a black hole? No, but it's there, right? So black is very powerful. Now, in contrast, white is finite. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know the color white is finite? Black is infinite. And white is finite. White is a very specific color temperature. White is 5,500 degrees Kelvin. Very delicate. If you go outside of it, it changes. Black is infinite. So I think we made a good choice in picking the color black. That's just me. Um, but what do I know? Um,
Also, I wanted to, before we move away from black, also, black is not a race. So, a Nigerian is the African race, a Chinese person is the Asian race, a Black American is, a mixture. We're called black, and we're the black race just because. That's a casual word. White is not a race. They would be called Caucasian or something like that. I mean, they made these names up and then they just casually said, oh, we're white. That's not a scientific term. So Africans are definitely not black because that's not even a scientific term. Their race is African. It just tickles me when someone tells me the name of the person and then says they're black. You just said they were African. Why are they everything? They're Nigerian, they're African, they're their tribe. People from South America or South American, they're Latino, they're Hispanic, they're Spanish, they're Dominican. They have four or five different names. They're West Indian, they're this, they're that. You're telling me their names, and then you're telling me that they're my name. I don't have all these names, nor do I want them. They're the ones with the identity problem, not me. They change identities when they move. I'm still a Black American no matter where I go. No matter which country I go to, I'm Black American, but not them. They become Irish over in Ireland. They're Swedish up in Sweden, and I'm Black American in Sweden. So as you can see, we're not the same group.
well, Wani, I would love for my people, if I could give one contribution, I would love for my people to see this through the lens of warfare. This is warfare. When you confuse a person's identity, you're confusing the person. So we have decided on our land-based identity. This is our home. This is our identity. And notice how people want to put us in groups that we have little or nothing to do with. The term African American is outright offensive to me because, as far as I'm concerned, my family, outside of my dad, a small portion of my dad's um, verified lineage, has been in America the whole time. So why are you calling me African American? Are you trying to link me? Are you trying to get me away from my land based identity? That's my theory. You think that's a possibility that they want to get us outside our land based identity? Why?
Yes, they
Why would
have
they
been
do that?
trying to displace us the whole time. White people have been working with these Pan African lunatics the whole time. They've been busted in CIA operations several times. And you know who benefits from us feeling like we're not
Who?
Americans after we fought in every war? White people
How so?
and Africans. White people have never wanted us to be citizens, and we're the only people that are Americans here. Our ethnicity was created here in America. No one else's was. If we look at the DNA profiles of, these white people, it's going to say 98% Irish, 99% English, 1% Irish. They know exactly what areas they came from, and they've got the Ellis Island paperwork to prove it. We don't have any of that. Not at all. Sorry, we're from here. And we're from here. And for them to keep saying we're not after having massive amounts of admixture and all kind of history, walking on the Trail of Tears, living in triracial isolates, having up to, 24% on average European DNA, the men having 40% European haplogroups, people having Irish haplogroups because of the admixture with them in the close proximity sex with Scandinavians. We have too much going on for us to be told, "Oh, you're relegated to somewhere else." Well, you tell us what that somewhere else is, because we don't have any ties. So I might have a collection of African genetics that's different than the professors. We wouldn't be a group if we scattered out like that. So that doesn't even make sense. We don't have citizenship anywhere but here. We're the only people that can't do exactly what white people can do because they have programs for them to go back to Italy. Just show us your Italian great grandmother and you can come back over here. We have no such program. They have that stupid African ancestry that tracks one line and sends you back over there so you can have citizenship in a third world country you don't want to go to. And then you boogie on back over here immediately because you want to have your snacks and you want to have your comfortable bath and you want to have your comfortable bed and you know it.
Didn't one of our scholars do that?
Yes, he did.
Mm.
That Cuban guy that says he's related to Frederick Douglass.
Oh, yeah. Well, Wani brings up a good point. Africa is a gigantic place with different phenotypes. Dr. John Henry Clark said the African has five faces. There are different races in Africa. Come on now. So to call me African American is not specific enough. It's a misnomer, number one, like Wani said, but it's not specific enough, and it's not true. I've been all over West Africa, and that is not our phenotype. I'm not dissing anybody. I'm not digging at anybody. I'm just saying that ain't me. That ain't us. It don't look like me. Don't look like Wani. Doesn't look like Robbie. Doesn't look like Nikki. We're different phenotypes. So I'm sure that that's warfare to get us away from our land-based identity. The fact of the matter is, like Wani said, we are the only group that was created on this land from a various amalgamation of different groups, and I think that's a dangerous thing to the system because an argument then arises that this place belongs to us. What you think about that, Robbie?
Greetings, good evening, good evening. I think you're spot on, and I think that's really what it is, they think about us being amalgamation of everything that, you know, the best of what the earth has to offer, what the creator has to offer. And I think it's by no mistake, not just with inventions, but even when it comes to athletics, when it comes to intellectual prowess, it's not by mistake that we're like the flagship of the world and what is cool. But going into something that I'm seeing in your title in terms of dark skin, the thing that sticks out of my mind is emphasis on the word dark. And when you were talking about the temperature and the light spectrum, isn't it interesting how before white people started creating these constructs, because white people truly aren't white and black people truly aren't black, but I think what it really boils down to is they want to try to equate darkness with evil. See, and light with being
Yes.
holy and pious. So, but the interesting thing when you look at nature, life is germinated in darkness.
Yes.
Seeds are germinated in darkness. There's a relationship between sunlight and darkness. There's this balance of this dance, with the planet spinning and rotating, where if it wasn't for that balance of light and darkness, one without the other, you wouldn't have life. So, um that again just proves like their dishonesty. And then even when you look up in the stars, what is the most amazing thing that reminds you of where your place is in the universe? The vast darkness of space,
Right.
right? When you look at the ocean at night when the moon's there, when it is intimidating, when you see the darkness, like what did they say in the Bible? And the face of God, the Spirit of God went on the what is it? They talk about the darkness of the waters, right? So I just think that there's something to that, a psychological component, that they took something that was majestic and they tried to demonize it. But the interesting thing, what do they call Lucifer? The light
The
bearer.
light bearer, Lux, Lux
Bingo.
means light. That's what
So
you're
you know
looking
what?
at. Thank you,
So
Robbie. Keep going.
I'd rather tap into my darkness then.
There it is. Robbie said he beat me to it in the Ethiopian Bible and in the Book of Enoch. Um, the devil is depicted as a white cat. So
Hmm.
there it is.
Well, it's the color of deep space and rich earth that grows everything, and chocolate and coffee. It's also used in martial arts, religious clothing, um, like nuns and stuff.
Judges.
Yeah, judges. It's used in a lot. Symbolizes power, protection, and mystery, by the way.
Oh yeah, we're looking at psychological warfare, like Robbie said. Um, but it's clever. What we're really looking at, ladies and gentlemen, is a one Plato. How so? Well, Plato, the European philosopher, and military tactician, as rumor has it, was sat down on the knee of his great uncle Solon. And Solon, basically, the short version is Solon warned him of a group of people who once ruled the earth with damn near perfection, flawlessness. And he warned Plato that Plato must create a system to prevent these people from rising to their form of power. People was us, ladies and gentlemen. That's my conclusion. And Plato went about creating a system of government, a system of culture that is diametrically opposed to everything about us. Darkness becomes bad, light becomes good. Um, in dance, you call dance classical. You call the one of the newest forms of fucking dance ballet. How old is ballet? Ballet isn't as old as um, dance is out from the continent, but somehow ballet becomes classical. And guess what? In ballet, having a big bottom is somehow pejorative. What do they teach dancers in ballet? To tuck your butt in. That's Plato.
Tuck your butt.
Tuck your butt. Why are you tucking your butt? Because that's going against features that are beneficial to our phenotype. We're at war and we don't realize it. Our sister Vicky Diller said America is the most beautiful battlefield on the planet, and she was right about that. Go ahead, Robbie.
I was going to ask you, do you think you can elaborate about the pool table and the metaphor of like the white ball knocking in all the balls of that are colored balls? You know, and the very last ball that you have to knock in to win the game is the eight ball. But I'm gonna tell you something that's also interesting about pool that people may not realize, and I seen it in a white supremacist joke. They said, what does a game of pool and a cop pulling over an illegal immigrant have in common? They say, all I know is the harder you move the stick, the more English you get. They call it English when you're hitting the stick, hitting that white ball to knock the other balls in the hole. I land my plane.
Wow. So yeah, I'll elaborate on that. It's very powerful. Um, where do I begin? Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, one of my heroes, said one Sunday morning she was shocked by how quiet it was. She's like, it was at DC, it was just outrageously quiet. And she's like, why in the hell is it so quiet? And she realized, oh, there's a Redskins game going, football game going. Everybody's in the house watching the game. And Welsing said that she could concentrate. She was surprised at how powerful her ability to concentrate was. But anyway, long story short, Welsing focused in on ball games, ball games. She said, what the hell does that mean, ball games? And she came up with the analogy that ball games, everything boils down to sex, procreation. Like I've said in other spaces, and I'll put in this chat. I don't know if I had a chance to put it in the other time. Europeans, according to Freud, are motivated by two things: the death instinct and the life instinct. Thanatos, Eros, and Thanatos. I'm putting in a jumbotron. Um, so Europeans are obsessed. Eros ball games become a part of Eros. I'm gonna have sex. Procreation more than you to stay relevant. That type of thing. Well, back to what Robbie was saying about pool. Dr. Wilson said all games on a subconscious level are motivated by the idea of procreation, which goes into Freud's eros theory. And Dr. Wilson said these games are predicated around white domination. So with the pool, you have a white ball. What does a white ball do? The white ball breaks all the colored balls, smashes them, hits them hard as fuck, and smashes them all across. It divides them. Metaphorically, that's what the system of white supremacy has done to all. Really, give me your thinking caps for a sec. Put on your thinking caps. Isn't that what the system of white supremacy has done to all nations on the planet Earth? Just smashed them.
Yes.
How so? How so, Wani?
Well, once you came into contact with them, everybody got divided. So if they would land on a South Pacific island, some of the people would say, "Hey, well, I still want to do my, my traditional religion," and the other ones would, "No, we're Christian now. No more fire dances, no more gyrating." And so they immediately started dividing themselves. Of course, those people were divided away from the white people. So yeah, their presence causes chaos, havoc, and division.
Very good, Wani. That's absolutely true. And I mean, it sounds rude, but it's true. They come in contact with people and they immediately start dividing cultures, dividing families, just like a fucking pool table. Isn't that amazing? When I found that out, I was like, my mind was blown away by that. So let's take it a step further. Once that ball, which represents the system of white supremacy, breaks up that triangle, and a triangle is significant as well. Once it breaks up that triangle of color, what does it then seek to do? It seeks to isolate colored balls and do what to them? Put them in the hole. Now, on a spiritual level, that's very interesting. Maybe Robbie can help me out. I'm not necessarily a biblical scholar, but I remember back in the day when I was in the Baptist church, there was a scripture that said that Satan is a lion that prays. Well, you know that scripture, Robbie?
Like he roams to and fro, seeking who he can devour on the earth. And the interesting thing is, what color generally is a pool table?
Green.
Green.
Wow, I didn't even catch that.
So that's like the earth. So
Whoa.
they're trying to say, look, man, we're gonna dominate the earth, and and our biggest adversary is the eight ball, which the eight represents infinity.
Yep. Yep. Infinity. Infinite blackness, like what we were talking about earlier. That's crazy. The reason why I brought up the lion analogy is the lion um, has to isolate its target first. The target needs to be isolated. Once it's isolated, then you can prey upon the target, and that's what the system of white supremacy does. Breaks up the group, then isolates somebody and attacks them one by one. Red ball, green ball, blue ball, until, like Robbie said,
Blue ball.
yeah, isn't it a blue ball? I didn't say blue balls. I said blue ball.
Too late, I already laughed.
um, yeah, but until it gets to the black ball. Now, the fascinating thing is that's an analogy for life. Um, Other groups that unify with the system of white supremacy don't understand that the system of white supremacy is just acting systematically to eliminate ball one by one. Let me give you a little history and we'll move on to the next speaker. If you look at the Arawaks in what is now the Bahamas, Christoph Colon, whatever you want to call that fucker, killed all of them. He killed every last one of them. First, he isolated them and killed them all. Now, keep that in mind when you're looking at the system of white supremacy. What I want to know is how do other melanated groups not know that the system of white supremacy is going to turn on them once they eliminate a group? I don't know how they don't know that. I think they think they're going to be friends or they're going to amalgamate into the system of white supremacy. Never happened, never will happen. Black Truth, what's on your mind?
Salute Professor Allen, Sister Nikki, Sister Wani. It's a pleasure to be here. I think those other groups are attempting to have us fight their battles for them, and that's not going to happen anymore. We have progressed way past that point, and we know the game now. All the other groups are waiting, are trying to use us essentially as a stepping stone so that they can get all the benefits. So, just to answer that real quick. But I wanted to add to what you all were talking about before. The verses in First Peter chapter 5, verse 8, and it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour." So that's what you were referring to. And a lot of people don't know the nature of a lion. A lion typically hunts at night. It's typically pitch black. They have incredible eyesight, but they're not born with eyesight. The cubs are born blind. So they're completely reliant on the lioness for the first part of their life in order to stay alive. And yeah, they typically hunt at night, and they're very quiet until they get into a position in which it's pretty much until they pretty much know that they have their prey. So when it says in that particular verse and what you were talking about before, a lion, roaming about seeking whom he may devour, that's exactly what they do. And also a lot of people get this confused. The male lion is not the principal hunter. It's the females are actually the principal hunters, whereas the male is the defender of the pride. The females call upon the male when they, let's say, they encounter hyenas or other dangerous foes. The male will show up and everyone else will scatter. So the males are not the primary hunters, although they do occasionally get involved when the prey is something big like a buffalo, a large buffalo or something like that. They'll get involved and they'll be in the hunt, or to, kind of prove themselves. They'll do that. But for the most part, the females are the principal hunters. I just wanted to add those insights in there.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. The reason why I brought that up is that if you look at, just kind of let me lend you my mind for a minute. If you see the the Sahara, or not the Sahara, the savannah, excuse me, like the area where the lions roam as a pool table, the lions scatter them first, right? They scatter the wildebeest or whatever, just like the pool ball, bam, scatters them. And then the roaring lion, like the biblical verse says, preys on one at a time, one color at a time. You can't have them all at once, one at a time. It's systematic. Now that we have over 100 people in here, I wanted to kind of give y'all something. Today is Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday. Happy birthday to my fallen brother, to our fallen brother. Um, I read a whole lot, and I have a good friend. Um, well, I used to come to my school, Judge Joe Brown, and he gave me a little game on Dr. King's assassination. Well, one day, um, I found a book in a it's a bookstore. They don't exist anymore, but it's a bookstore in Memphis that was going out of business, like everywhere else on the planet. And anyway, I picked it up. It was Dr. Ralph um, Abernathy's autobiography. Now, Ralph Abernathy was Martin Luther King's best friend. Now, a lot of people who surrounded Dr. King were questionable, a little oppish, but I think it was verified that Abernathy was trustworthy for certain reasons. Abernathy was supposed to be Dr. King, but he wasn't selected because he was a little older. Dr. King was young and had the little, the beautiful wife, and Ralph was kind of like kind of older. So anyway, but he kind of took Dr. King under his wing. Well, anyway, what we're gonna do is we're gonna read quickly out of his Ralph's autobiography where Dr. King was killed. So Abernathy was with Dr. King on the balcony when he was hit. Now, I was looking for it as I spoke. I can't find it, but it says that there it is. I found it. So Dr. Ralph Abernathy says, um, he said, I'll never forget it. Quote, I'll never forget it. I had sprinkled Aramis on my hands and was lifting them to my face when I heard a loud crack, and my hands jerked reflexively. It sounded like the backfire from a car, but there was just enough difference to chill my heart. I wheeled and looked out the door and saw Martin's feet. That's Dr. King. He was down on the concrete balcony. I bolted out the door and found him there, face up, sprawled and unmoving. Stepping over his frame, I knelt down and gathered him in my arms. He said, at first glance, I could see that the bullet had entered, and y'all listen to this closely. I could see that the bullet had entered his right cheek, leaving a small hole. Um, Now that's a problem because where were we taught that Dr. King was hit with that bullet? Anybody recall? Didn't they say that the bullet hit him in the throat? That's what I was taught growing up and saw in documentaries. Ralph
That's what I
Abernathy,
was told.
right? Ralph Abernathy said it hit him in the cheek. So let's check this out. Um, he said, I looked more carefully at the wound and I saw it glistening with bone and with blood and a flash of white bone. So the bullet hit Dr. King in the cheek and it like severed his tongue, I think. Dr. King was coughing up blood because his tongue was severed, but that's survivable. Got it? Dr. Abernathy said he said go get an ambulance. He tried to get an ambulance and he couldn't get a line. Check this out. He said, quote, later I would learn. He said, quote, I can't get a line, he yelled. Something's wrong with the phone. So all the phones at the motel were down. Dr. Abernathy said, later I would learn that the black woman operating the motel switchboard at the time of the shot had suffered a heart attack and died. Is that coincidental? Well, long story short, um, and I'm gonna paraphrase it so before I bore y'all with all this verbiage. Abernathy established that Dr. King was hit in the cheek. Bullet exited and severed his tongue. Didn't hit any arteries. They took Dr. King to a hospital all across. They drove past like 5 hospitals to get to a specific hospital in Memphis. It was all the way across town. And Dr. Abernathy.
Any reason for that?
Um,
Is it a special hospital or
uh,
does it like know for something special?
well, it wasn't. Let me put it this way: this hospital was in very close proximity to a government agency, way across town. So in Memphis, where I just moved from, there are like 5 hospitals downtown. They drove him from downtown where he got shot, past 5 hospitals, all the way to the to what's the name of that area? To the let's see, to the east side, to a hospital that was isolated. Well, that's not the thing. Well, what Dr. Abernathy says, there it is, I found it. I'm gonna paraphrase it so I don't bore y'all half to death. But he said a bunch of doctors. Now, Dr. King got hit in the damn cheek, right? That's survivable. He was stabilized. He could have possibly choked on blood because his tongue was severed. But that was a very survivable wound. Well, when Dr. Ralph Abernathy walked with him to the hospital, wouldn't leave his side, and the doctors initially took him and said he's going to be okay or something like that. Well, when they took him in the room, he said more doctors that he didn't recognize walked up in there, and he heard somebody yell in the room in the OR. He's in the operating room, right? He's not going to make it. Um, so listen, he says, quote, one of the doctors said, came out and told him, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that it would be an act of mercy if God took him being Dr. King. If he lives, he'll be a vegetable. How's he going to be a vegetable when they hit him in the cheek? Right? So check this out. In conclusion, Dr. Abernathy said, they said he died, basically. They said Dr. King died. How did he die? He got shot in the cheek. And when Dr. Here goes the golden nugget. When Ralph Abernathy, who loved Dr. King like he loved him like a brother, walked in the room to see his body one last time, I'm gonna give you his exact words. He said, "quote I nodded, and y'all listen to this closely." He said, "I nodded, laid his head back down on the blood-soaked pillow." Stop. Why in the fuck is there a pillow in an operating room? Nikki, do y'all have pillows in the operating room?
No.
Every once in a while you'll see something like that, but it's not normal.
A blood soaked pillow. Did somebody smother Dr. King with that pillow?
They could
That's
have.
the rumor. And I'm not gonna tell you where I heard that rumor, but I heard that rumor for years.
Is that an operating table?
Yes, it's not supposed to be a fucking pillow on an operating table.
Okay, yeah.
In your face. And Ralph Abernathy has it in his diary. There was a blood soaked fucking pillow in the OR.
No, it's not supposed to be there. But when you first lay down for surgery, they may get you comfortable and give you something to relax you and give you a pillow. but the pillow isn't supposed to stay with you the whole time. So it may stay with you for a little bit while they're trying to get you to relax and go to sleep.
Mm-mm.
I would say Brother Abernathy's account is pretty concise. There was a black woman who was a nurse that they interviewed a few years ago. She had kept her silence, and she basically confirmed the same thing that you said. She worked at that hospital, and she said that when Dr. King came in, that he was alive, but she said something a little different. Not only did she say some doctors went back there, she said a couple of police officers went back there, and she was under the impression, or she said she thinks she saw through the door that they actually like beat him like with billy clubs or spat on him, like in other words. And then later on he ended up turning up dead. So I would say allegedly we had somebody who was there of the lineage that, I mean, that for sure police officers shouldn't have went back there. It's not like he was under arrest. So I think it was all foul. I think there was foul play to ensure that he succumbed to that gunshot, which
Of
by the
course.
way was done, I think, by the government.
That's what
Well,
Judge. Go ahead.
they try to just say, oh well, the doctor killed him. The doctor killed him, but just like what our brother Robbie said, it's something much bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah. Judge Joe Brown, and I don't want to say anything, get paraphrase him wrong, but Judge Joe Brown brought to my attention that uh, there's a firehouse, like a fire department, right across the street from the Lorraine Motel, and back then, you know, it was manned by black men. There was a black fire chief, and it was four people there. It was a black fire chief, a black second in command, and two rookies, two like firemen, black firemen. Judge Brown said that they got fired. No, I'm sorry, I'm getting it wrong. I'm not, withdraw that. He didn't say that. Judge Brown said that the two rookies got transferred. That's what I meant to say. The two young firemen got transferred to another firehouse a couple days before the shooting, which was strange. And he said that the two senior firemen, the chief and the fireman, were asked to take the day off out the blue. And the senior, the chief, was like, I'm take a day off. You're crazy. What if there's a fire? Like I'm responsible for these, I'm responsible for these people." And he refused to take the day off. Judge Brown said he got fired, right? So anyway, Judge Joe Brown was like, he posited that the shooters, they cut down a bush near that firehouse, and he just posited that those shooters could have been um, from an agency. Let's put it that way. That may have been military in origin. They may have come from Quantico. Um, that's the going rumor. So it was a hit all the way around. But I just wanted to share that bit of evidence I've been holding to myself, that there was a bloody pillow in the OR. And a lot of my medical professional friends say pillows are not supposed to be in the operating room. And Dr. King went from according to Dr. Ralph Abernathy's own testimony, having a survivable, gruesome wound. It was gruesome, but survivable. Um, Hit in the cheek to, abruptly dying in the OR. I'm gonna say that's very strange.
Yep, it's a suspicious death.
Yep.
Was it treated suspiciously at the time?
What was suspicious about it was the amount of people who came in the OR. I didn't read that because I didn't want to just sit up there and read y'all half a page and bore y'all half to death. Thank you, babe. Um,
Well, I had a question to ask you. To your recollection, what was the account of some of the other people that were there? Because growing up as a child, they made it seem like he died on the balcony, that, he didn't have a pulse, and that, they were pointing towards the direction of the shooter, and that he was dead. It wasn't until many years later that I found out he had a survivable wound. Also, do you know anything about that photographer they said that followed him all the time, and come to find out later that photographer allegedly was an FBI agent?
That photographer was African, number one, and he was affiliated. I forget the agency he was affiliated with. I don't know if it was FBI or CIA, but he was affiliated. Now, to tell you something very interesting, and bear with me, I got to be careful. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. Let's be careful with this. There were other people with Dr. King other than um, Ralph Abernathy. You know, and some of those people were pointing in all different directions when um when the shot went off. Now, y'all heard what I read about Abernathy. Here you go, baby. Abernathy said that it came. He said it was it was one shot. It was a loud crack. Why are they pointing in different directions? Now, 40 years after King gets shot, there's a guy named Billy Kyle. He's dead now. He was a pastor. He was the youngest member out there with Dr. King, Reverend Billy Kyle. Yeah, that's hot sauce, baby. You can. Oh, I'm sorry. Damn, my bad, y'all. But but Billy Kyle uh was did an interview where he was talking about what happened to Dr. King, and somebody was like, and they asked him what happened, and Billy Kyle slipped up and said, quote, I moved out. He said, I was standing on the balcony, and he said, I moved. You can find this on YouTube. Type in Billy Kyle, Dick Gregory, Billy Kyle, Dr. King shooting speech or something. You can find it. Billy Kyle said, I moved out the way so they could get a clear shot. And people was like, what the fuck did he just say? Like everybody started getting mad at him in the audience. Dick Gregory said that they were like trying to gang up on Billy, but that's what he said. If I moved out the way so they could get a clear shot. So what does that mean? I don't know, but it's highly suggestive.
Very suggestive.
Dick Gregory was like, sometimes the universe will cause you to slip up and tell on yourself. Yeah. Back to black. What makes a black American, Wani?
Well, um, being here in this ethnogenesis, either on the plantation or outside of the plantation, because we had, two of them. We had the triracial isolates, which created groups of people who were called free people of color. We also had the ethnogenesis that's infamously known of on the plantation. Those people were enslaved. And once they came out of slavery, they began to mix in with those people that were outside. That's what my great grandfather did. He came off of a plantation. He was liberated by the Union Army, and ended up from South Carolina. He ended up being dropped off in Lima, Ohio, where he married into a family of people that had been free since the 1799. So that's something that we could talk about too, the differences between free people of color and people that were newly released, and some of the social things that they had to go through. Clearly, someone who's been enslaved for several generations has a different point of view than someone who's been free the whole time, though both of them were subject to harsh um, treatment and even enslavement. Many, many people were in hiding. Churches had to hide people. Some of these slave catchers were corrupt. So even if you had your freedom papers, they would still raid places. And when someone would know that they were around, some of these churches would hide people, especially in those triracial isolates. So, um, a Black American is someone who is an amalgamation of all the things happening here in North America in a certain period of time, from the beginning of the European getting here and forcing people into bondage until the Emancipation Proclamation.
So
So,
the cutoff point is the 1870 census, right?
no, it's the Emancipation Proclamation. So, if, say, for instance, if you were Haitian and you came here after the Emancipation Proclamation, you're
Okay.
just a Haitian. You're a Haitian that came here after the Emancipation Proclamation. A lot of people are noted on the census that way as well. I've seen people noted as being from Jamaica or being from Haiti,
Hmm.
and they're not considered a Black American because when you look at our draft cards, it says something about native born. Um, and those people will never be identified that way.
But if they came before then, they could be re-identified, right?
No,
Well, how did what's the guy's name? Not the why do I have a hard time remembering the physician's name? That hung out with Frederick Douglass. I can never remember this guy's name.
I don't know. I forget too.
Ah,
So
dang.
if you now if you
He
were
was
a
African, but
Jamaican,
he's Black American.
okay, so if you were Jamaican and you came, the reason I said Haitian was because I actually saw that on the
Delaney,
census.
that's what I'm talking about.
It said place of birth. Okay, so if you were Jamaican and you came over just before the Emancipation Proclamation, and you were hanging out with some people of color, free Black people of color, you're still not a Black American because
Hmm.
you have papers that said you came from Jamaica. You're not part of the
Mm.
ethnogenesis. You've already established what your
Oh,
background
you're
is.
already established.
Right.
But
So yeah, they're still not Black American.
got you. And Delaney, I said it wrong. His parents were African, so he was established in
Mhm.
America.
Now, this guy, I forgot, I was looking him up. His parents were both from Africa and he was born here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was both parents were from Africa and he was born in the States.
Which
Went to
year? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can
What
find
year?
out because a book is right in front of me.
Okay.
and I
Okay.
and I've been looking for this book for like months, and it just appeared like it was in the closet looking at me. But when I find it, I'll let you know. I'm flipping to find Martin Delaney is for those of you who are. So Martin Delaney was the first Pan Africanist. He created Pan Africanism, and we've had a space talking about him. That
Mm-hmm.
I argued that he meant well,
Mm-hmm.
and I had somebody with a counter argument that he didn't mean well. I think it was Kanye. I think it was because Delaney was he made major field grade officer. He was a major in the United States.
Oh yeah, I remember the argument.
And and
That
and
argument.
and you don't get up that high without being complicit. While I look for Delaney, we're gonna go ahead and go to Robbie and then Black Truth. Go ahead, Robbie.
No, I was just going to make sure I clarify the Emancipation Proclamation. That was in 1863, right? Because I try to make sure I pay attention to these dates, especially as now I'm paying, closer attention to these different amendments and these things they passed. Because again, these white supremacists will act like they have no clue what we're talking about when these things have been documented. You know what I mean?
Right, 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 right. But the danger for them is we're starting to um go to text based arguments, which you can't really talk around. I've noticed it's like Tariq said the other night, like they have resulted retorted to like trolling, because when you look at text based arguments, I mean, you can't argue with it. So the year.
It's similar,
Go ahead.
it's similar to if a group of people, like, it actually exists, the descendants of the Mayflower, they number 35 million people, are descendants from the Mayflower, and it started off as 102 people on the Mayflower. So if your family sailed over after the Mayflower, but you're there, you're English and you came over on a later ship, you're not a descendant of the Mayflower. If you came over the day before the Mayflower landed, you're not a descendant of the Mayflower. And you're not part of that lineage because they've made that sailing and those people's uh, activities here on this land a point of lineage. So, not so much because of an ethnogenesis, even though perhaps some of them are mixed. I don't really know how those people mixed in. I know a lot of white people in the South have, they're part black.
Mm.
They're just, they're passing. Like I said, we're no different from Cuba or any other place that has a light skinned person and a dark skinned person, and they're all the same people. The only difference is that the original white people settlers here, they dumped a lot of European immigrants here to kind of muddy the waters. And those people are not mixed with us, but the original white people here are heavily mixed, and they don't like that. And the difference is that they are they just pass for white, basically. A lot of white people pass for white, and you'll see them if you do 23andMe. You'll see them. They'll have 1%, 10%, even 20% DNA. Um, that shows that they're related, but we don't accept them. The violence that they enacted against us, we can never go around saying we're English. We can never acknowledge that. That's just something that we cannot acknowledge. We don't want to be related to them. We don't want to be part of them. And that's really something that we've decided. We don't even acknowledge that. That's something that I'm saying here, but it's something that I would never acknowledge.
Yeah, and
And
and that's the difference. We're really proud of who we are. And let me get something straight. That's not taking anything away from them. We're just proud of who we are. And but I want to, before I move on to the Black Truth, I want to ask Wani a question. In the book, Wani, Martin Delany was born in 1812.
okay, great. He's Black American.
Okay. But I did had a question. I've been meaning to ask you for months, but it skipped me. But it says Martin R. Delany was indeed a proud of the Gullah. We knew that he was Gullah, but it says Gullah and Mandingo blood. What is Mandingo blood?
You mean the West Africans?
Yeah, what does that mean, Mandingo? I thought Mandingo was. I thought it meant something else. Is Mandingo a lineage?
It's a tribe.
Oh, okay. I never knew that. I thought it meant something else. Go ahead, Black True.
Yeah, just wanted to add a few tidbits here and there. Brother Robbie, that date is January 1st, 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation. And then I added the clip up there in the Jumbotron of Billy Kyle's. I had never heard of that before. I had to research it, so I found it and put it in the Jumbotron. It's on YouTube. Yeah, very, very sick stuff. There were a lot of ops around Martin Luther King Jr. Almost, almost everywhere you turned, it was someone with a suspicious background. But well, I wanted to add this insight. I was told that at one point the government agents were able to distinguish between those who were on board with the assassination and those who were not by the neckties that they wore. If they were wearing a tie, then they were on the team. If they were wearing a bow tie or something else, they were not on the team. So
Weird. That's
it's
crazy.
yeah, it's very that's what I was told. I was trying to find something to confirm that. I was unable to, completely verify that, but that's what I was told. There were a lot of ops. And by the way, there was an eyewitness to the actual assassin. A lot of people don't know about this, but she was thrown into a loony bin by the government agencies in order because she wouldn't go along with the narrative of who they said it was. The what is his name? Earl something.
James Earl Ray.
James
Yeah,
Earl.
yeah, James Earl. She wouldn't go along with that narrative because she looked at him and said, "Oh no, that's not the guy." And
Y'all,
some people argue there were multiple people.
that's what I recall Judge Joe Brown telling me. He said it was,
Mhm.
and I'm paraphrasing Joe. I recall Brother Brown saying that it was too. I don't know if he said special forces.
National Guard.
Oh wow, yeah, they were military.
National Guard sniper team.
Wow.
Typically, when you have a sniper team, you have one person who is shooting, and then the other person's a spotter. They're there with a special scope, telling the shooter, "Okay, you're off by this amount." Typically, it's a team of two.
Yeah. So the reason that they shot Dr. King was for a speech that he had. Um, Dr. King came to the conclusion that he made an error with nonviolence, and it's really deep when you explore the error. Dr. King was some scholars, including myself, posit that Dr. King was um, kind of seeded with the idea of nonviolence, um, which goes all the way back to England. So Gandhi was, according to Dick Gregory, British intelligence. And y'all roll with me for a minute. I know that sounds crazy, but Dick Dick kind of made sense. Dick said that Gandhi went to Cambridge School of Law in England, and that Gandhi was a racist. Now, Gandhi, according to Dick Gregory, was implanted with the idea of nonviolence because the India was a very strategic place for Great Britain with the East India Company, and India then, like now, has a fuckload of people. So all the weaponry and military tactics of Great Britain were irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? And a tactic. These people are brilliant with their evil. Like the tactic to control them was to imbue their mind with nonviolence, make them think that being violent is such a mortal sin that under no circumstance will they ever be violent. So, in conclusion, Dick Gregory posited that that was Gandhi's, you know, his task to get his 30 pieces of silver was to go make the Indians think, I'm not going to lift even if you kill me, I'm not going to lift a finger, which is against nature. Nature, you know, fights back. For every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction.
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
Self-preservation is normal.
Yeah.
You got me wondering, Professor. I wonder what natural resource or what it is that they were getting out of India, because literally India, the reason why they call India East is because it was east of the British Empire. And I think, what you're proposing is definitely plausible, that he was some type of asset. And we came to the conclusion earlier that the main reason why they deploy these psychological, uh, you know, the psychological attack is because it's all about preserving resources. See, if they do something very destructive that's going to mess up the infrastructure or make it hard for them to get the resources, that's the main reason why they didn't drop nukes on anywhere. That's why they don't really use nukes to this day, because anybody they have a conflict with, if they were to use, a heavy nuclear payload, it would make the soil inhabitable. They wouldn't be able to go and extract the resources. So they try to like bedazzle us and use smoke and mirrors as much as they can to confuse people, because their objective is to, you know, own property and mine resources, and probably have the indigenous people there, pick the resources for them.
Right, right. Mind games are, that's their telltale sign, and you got, man, you got to give credit where credit's due. That's a brilliant mind game. Have these people thinking that, you know, I'm not supposed to even lift a finger. If you cut my throat, I'm supposed to just pray for you. That's craziness. But Dr. Amos Wilson said the only way for a small minority to control a large majority is to have them out of their mind. So that's what it is. Insanity. I was looking for.
You know
Go
what's
ahead.
deep though?
What's up?
If Gandhi was a British intelligence officer, then what was Bernard Rustin? You know what they say he worked for? The guy who came to King with that strategy. He was CIA, Bernard Rustin.
Wow.
Mm, mm, mm. Now I looked up that I was confused because Mandingo is spelled a certain way, but that's not the only way that they say it. But they're also known as the Mende tribe, which is interesting because
Mende. So they're the same thing. I know the Mende tribe.
and they spell the Mandingo, Mandinka, and something else. So that's interesting because they say the Olmec or the Mende.
I've heard that before, but that's interesting. I just associate Mandingo with a style of fighting that was, well, you know.
Oh, okay.
That's why it was confusing me. I was like, William Delaney is a Mandingo. No, he's a physician and a military officer. That didn't even make any sense.
So
But
it said he was from that tribe. That's
yeah,
interesting.
it says William R. Delaney was
Yeah,
indeed.
that's one of the places that we supposedly a lot of people came from.
Says he was proud of his Gullah and Mandingo blood which flowed in his veins. He was one of the leaders of the Great Debate following the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of us, Wani and I, have talked about this ad nauseum, but I feel like I might need to like kind of bring y'all in the loop. William Delaney um, was the was a early pan was the first Pan Africanist, and he had African lineage. He had African parents. So, from his standpoint, having a Pan Africanist ideology made a whole lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? But for the rest of us, it doesn't. I'm gonna argue. I'm gonna give William Delaney grace. It's a possibility he was Oppish because of his affiliation as field grade officer. I tried to make major. I couldn't do it. When you get above '03, like it's real political. So that Kanye brought up a really good point to make field grade officer. Um, he was doing some stuff for the system, but anyway, I'm gonna give him grace and say that the Pan African movement was compromised after him, namely with W. Du Bois and Marcus Garvey, according to Denmark Vesey. I've yet to
Now,
go ahead.
if he was so proud of being African and Mandinko and all these things, did he have any plans to go back over there where he just got sold from? Or where his parents got sold from?
Oh Lord.
Like
Uh,
that's the problem. The amnesia about being sold is like what do you do? You're over here in Gullah Geechee land bragging about being a Mandingo. Why? They just sold you.
right.
Did he want to go back over there and get sold again? Or find out who sold his parents or like wait, he said his parents were born there and he was born here?
Yep.
Okay, so his parents held no animosity about being sold? Were
Hmm.
they sold together or separately? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't. It doesn't say. It doesn't say that in this particular source. He said, "I thank God for making me a man simply, but Delaney always thank God for making him a black man." So he referred to himself as black,
Mm-hmm.
but
Well, I noticed that some of these explorers, when they don't know where you're from, they will call you Ethiopic type
mhm.
or black.
Well,
So that was used as a general term. So us using it, it makes perfect sense, since we did not know all the different places that we emanated from.
Ethiopia, as Dr. Joseph Benyakinen taught us, that Ethiop means burnt skin. So that's a general term. You know, it didn't necessarily mean a
Mhm.
country. I found
And
okay,
at some point they were calling a big swath of Africa Ethiopia, right?
right, the land of burnt skin,
Uh-huh.
and the whole
You mean actual melanin and not pink?
yeah, them. Um, well, um, I have an issue. I'm gonna have to do some research on even the word Africa because I'm beginning to find scholarship that says and I'm having conflicting information. I'm finding information that says Africa was a European word.
Yeah, it was named after Scorpio
Yeah, it
That's
africanus.
what I'm
is.
reading. And
Yeah.
if so, that's a problem.
These people just get renamed, and what amazes me is they don't say, wait a minute, the name of my country is Hindustan. They just go right along with, oh, it's India now. I mean, and we're Indians. Oh, it's Nigeria now, and we're Nigerians. Well, what? Why don't you push back? What are you? You
They
just
don't
let
push
somebody.
back because White Daddy has a switch.
Oh Lord. Um. So I wanted to play. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, making sure that. I found. It took me forever, but I found the video with Dr. King. Since we were talking about Dr. King, so the question is, what was the reason that he got killed? What students are not taught in the school system is Dr. King had a drastic turn, and he realized that what he was doing. He made the famous speech, "Have I let my people into a burning house?" And his conscience started getting to him. He's like, "Oh man, I've been tricked." People forget how young Dr. King was. He was a grad student at Boston University when he was being bombarded with all this ideology. He was very young. But I'm gonna play the video. Y'all let me know if you can hear it. Hold on one second. Why don't I hear anything? Hold on one second. At the same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, the government was giving away millions of acres of land in the Midwest, which the Midwest was willing to fight for. Not only did they give the
Breaking up a lot.
It's breaking up.
Yeah, I can't clearly hear it.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so let me try it again.
You may want to turn your voice isolation off just for that purpose and then turn it back on.
Now, the thing about iPhone, the new iPhone is I don't think I can turn I don't have an option to turn voice isolation off. It does its own thing. I don't like this phone. I don't like it. It does its own thing. Y'all let me know if you can hear this. Can you hear that? Was that clear?
Not to me.
Okay, well I'll just say it then. So Dr.
It's
King.
not just, yeah, just put it in a, I apologize. Just put it in a jumbotron and people can look at it later. So I'm
Okay,
sorry for interrupting.
no, you're good. You're good. Thank you for letting me know that it was not clear. I would have played it and frustrated everybody. Played the whole thing. Basically, Dr. King said that wait a minute. He said white people are getting land grant colleges while they told us to work. And he said they tricked us. They're giving away resources to white America and telling us to work. And he said next time around, we're not marching. We're coming for our check. These words came out of his mouth. We are coming for our check. The danger of that, and you add that in with him speaking against the Vietnam War, is what got him killed.
I mean, just think of the white man's attitude. He kills his bill collectors. I mean, I wish I could have that level of arrogance when they try to look on my credit report and call me up, and I'll be like, you know what? You need a lineage based claim, sir. We have proof that you owe me. No, you need to make it lineage based, and then just play dumb. I mean, we're only going through this because, to be honest with you, because they're playing dumb. But when you look at all the documentation, like I was talking about earlier, we really shouldn't even have to go through all this to substantiate our claim. But the good news is with foundational Black American and not that term not being able to be remixed, we pretty much have them in the figure four leg lock. They try to play Pictionary with us, and we finally have a designation that can't be remixed, that basically covers a segment of time that encapsulates the experience that our ancestors have gone through and the legacy of it. And they kept such good records because they were so greedy, especially post slavery. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like catching Jeffrey Dahmer with a head in the refrigerator. And he's like, what do you mean? That's Head and Shoulders. That's shampoo.
All the gaslighting, you know what I'm saying? It's,
Mm-hmm. And they come right in the room talking about, oh, you're never going to be able. They really believe this in some cases. We get this from white people. We get the same arguments from immigrants and white people. Neither one of them wants us to be able to prove that these things happen. It's inconceivable for them to believe that two of my great grandfathers were enslaved on paperwork. They just refuse to believe it. And they refuse to believe that we can come up with this paperwork. And that's based on the fact that their countries have no paperwork. They don't have any paperwork. They can't go look through hundreds of years of paperwork in Nigeria. They don't have that. So they're basing their opinion on their lack of having any information on any subject at all.
yeah, me and my dad went to North Carolina to the plant. It's still a plantation that sold his father's side of the family, my last namesake. And that was named after slave master in North Carolina. And there's still bills of lading up there. Like this stuff is verifiable. We have a slam dunk case. You know what I'm saying? This is a slam dunk. It's not deniable.
And it's not going to get any better because those records aren't going
No,
away.
no, no, no.
Well, to their counter argument, like how they try to say, well, tell me something. Were you ever a slave? What's worse is, I should say, are you the descendant of a freeloader? Because you came over here with and got ill-gotten gains. Land was given to you. It had nothing to do with your intellect. It had nothing to do with how smart you were. You weren't even necessarily born into the right family. Literally, all you had to do was be white and be a Christian, and you could have lied about that, which most of them did. So it's like they literally had this country given to them, and look what they've done with it, and look how they treated our people, and they have the nerve to have the courage to even fix their lips to let that malarkey come out. It's like, if anything, you're a freeloader and a criminal. You, if anybody can't produce, proper paperwork to say they belong here, you can't. In many cases, they stole land from people. I think from Dr. Claude Anderson was saying there were people, there were some of our ancestors who had land and they straight up stole it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Government sanctioned stealing. Um, the Andrew Johnson reversed Special Field Order 15 and let the Confederates take that land back from them folk at bayonet point. You know, it's but you know what? I wouldn't even don't Black Americans don't get freaked out when they start, talking about what's not going to happen, because any first year law student knows that um you know what I'm saying, like your at probate, like when like for instance when a property goes into probate court, it stays there until they find the next of kin. So if you apply that concept, and this is my pro se opinion, I'm not legally advising anybody. In my pro se opinion, if you apply that same concept to the stolen labor, my great great granddaddy's stolen labor is sitting in probate right now, and it's waiting on me to go get my damn money. So all we gotta do is stay calm. We got this, and stay persistent.
So the other issue is they say that, but Native Americans are being paid for things that happened in the 1800s.
Facts.
And also, they know that they owe us for every time that we were in the war, and they said, "Oh, we're gonna, make you whole, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do that," and they reneged on Special Field Order 15. So therefore, you've already admitted that you need to pay up, and you reneged on it like you've done so many other promises and treaties with other groups who shall not be named. They are known for not keeping their word, breaking promises, and breaking treaties. And that's why Native Americans go to Congress here and there and are still trying to work out all the bugs and the broken treaties and promises that they have with the European as well. So what we're doing is no different than that. The only difference is that They didn't pay up that Special Field Order 15, and we're still complaining about poor treatment from these people since we've come into contact with them.
Right.
And I think the other thing is what they don't like is because of how they finessed the native people with the $5 Indians. See, with the FBA freedman designation, they really can't do the same thing. See, that's why they keep trying to say, well, what if I have a great Meemaw? Or you know what I'm saying? They're always trying to look for ways like a virus to see if they can break the cell wall and some kind of way latch themselves in. And then before you know it, oh yeah, they'll be all before reparations because they'll try to finesse it into UBI. Like I see their play. They are trying to hold on to UBI as like a bargaining chip so it can be a lift off program. But if they ever pull that crap out, they better make sure they pay us like 3, 4 times more that amount. But I'm guaranteeing like that's I see them like my little brother like holding on to a draw four in Uno and they're pretending like they don't have it. Like, okay, you think I'm gonna go for the Okie doke. We're not going for UBI. UBI is something totally separate from our claim. So that's why they're angry. That's why they're kicking and screaming, and they're willing to pull out the bayonets again, Professor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, they cannot segue into, say you are a white person today, right? You are physically, you look white, but you did have a black great grandmother. If your family is listed as white, you don't have a claim.
Yeah. You.
So you would have had to identify as black the whole time. And they didn't. They were eager to. Well, that's why Walter Plecker was irate, because people that had black ancestry were identifying themselves as white, and he didn't want them to do that. They were trying to, i- ignore the fact that they had these grandfathers or grandmothers that were of African descent. So, no, they cannot segue in like that. And they cannot do it because you have had to identify as black. Your family would have to be listed as black. They can't be listed as it doesn't go with DNA. That's one of the main reasons that people don't want to use DNA for this type of thing. They don't really use that on the reservation. They go by that Dawes Rolls that just says I'm half whatever. And they're not going to use DNA because DNA is going to tell all their business, and they have never been identifying as black. So it doesn't even make any sense to do it.
Hmm.
You know, it's interesting now that you're making me think, especially when we bring up DNA. The one thing that probably mind boggles them is we're the only group of people on this continent did not fight to be classified as white. See, everyone else fought to be classified as white. They didn't fight for equality. And they've tried everything they could do to try to like whitewash us to see if they could bleach us out. That was part of their fault because they were so scared with their fragile genetics. They knew that they couldn't even try to play that game with us. But all these other groups of people, really, that was the deal. That was kind of like the deal with Mustapheles. Forsake, you know what I'm saying, your native lineage and claim to be white. Well, if there's going to be some set asides, see, that was the finesse with civil rights. Rest in peace, Dr. Martin Luther King. Oh, so you mean tell me I can be white and be a minority too? See, that's the term. It's Freudian slip. Playing victim. We're not playing victims. We truly have been victimized. Everybody else has been playing victim. So they're a minority when there's some set asides, when there's a finesse, but then they want to practice white supremacy 24/7 and get some pom poms for Christmas.
Well, that's interesting, Robbie. What you said made me think about what our brother. And one of these days, I need to have a space on James Baldwin. James Baldwin needs to be exalted and studied. James Baldwin argued in The Fire Next Time that if that wrong wasn't righted, that scar, that Myafa was not corrected or healed, America would tear itself apart. Well, guess what? That scar has not been healed. It's been ignored, and America is tearing itself apart. In a lot of ways, ladies and gentlemen, looking through the sands of time, it seems like, in my view, as a historian, that the only way to completely save this country out of the mess we're in right now is to issue reparations. Imagine what reparations would do to the economy. Let's say we all got what, $20 million. What would that do to the American economy? It would boost it, like it would save the country. So it doesn't make sense to me that
20 million per person?
I'm just throwing a number out. We got 20 million per person. What would that do to local economies?
A lot.
A lot. It would save the country. And everybody would win, you know?
Well, what it would do, it would end racism, and that's the part they don't want. Because as you were
Right.
speaking, the one thing I thought, white people are correct when they say, "Well, I don't have white privilege." You know why they're right? Because you know what white privilege is for? It reminds me when I was in the military, they say, we take away all your privileges and then give them back to you, right?
Right.
Your rights become privileges. So what it is privileges are for all the white adjacent people. The people have to keep renewing their license to be considered white. That's why they have to crash out like Diana Yap. She can't even find a DEI dentist to fix her teeth, but she can fix her mouth to say stuff about us because she's trying to lobby to get white privilege. They have to keep getting their whiteness renewed. Whereas the cornbread, white cocoa butter skin white folks, they're like, hey, being white ain't what it's all cracked up to be because I'm too busy hating on the Jews and I got mental problems and genetic disorders. But hey, at least I'm not treated like those people over there because we purposely try to deny these people, but we want to keep you people in limbo with your whiteness. Your status has to keep being renewed. It's like getting a driver's license renewed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 It's very interesting. What I'm seeing a lot of is members of that of the general umbrella of whiteness backing out and going to their ethnic identity. What's that about? Have y'all noticed that?
Copying off of us.
Oh, so we're just setting a whole nother trend.
Yes, of course.
God dang. That's
Especially since they come in the room and go, "What's your lineage?" I think I'm Irish. What? How come you don't know? What's your last name? What
You know,
what is your last name? It's very
what
easy.
what are they calling in video games? I want to say it's called first person. Somebody up here who's a gamer will let me know. Where basically the reason why I'm saying it is these people love role playing. This is almost like entertainment for them. So we're trendsetters. They like to live vicariously through us. That's why sometimes I swear to God, we could just be in our own spaces. They just want to camp up and pull up, even if they don't say anything, because black suffering is entertaining, but also just listening to us and being around us, we're not boring like paint drying. So I think like it's just like this weird obsession where they're like, I want to get as close to the fire without being burned. That's definitely a lot of liberals' problems. But even more so, these other people, they're like, well, let's just see if we can just do the same thing that they're doing because they want to kind of have this experience. So they want to have the experience without giving up white privilege. They're trying to figure out the finesse. How can I get whatever they get without giving up whiteness?
wow. They're trying to figure out the finesse. We went over in con law today. We went over my students and I went over the formation of the Declaration of Independence, and I begged the question. I said, summarize, given what you know, summarize America in one word. Somebody said power. Somebody said deception, but one of my students said finesse. We live in an interesting country, ladies and gentlemen. Stacy, what's on your mind? Hey, Stacy, what's on your mind?
Oh,
Is
hey,
so
I just
the question is black defined by dark skin or melanin? That should be an
black if
order.
I'm a dark skin or melanin.
Yeah, how do you define black? What is blackness?
Well, I mean, I don't think you could define it by either because, Africans are trying to say black now that we are. I mean, we all have melanin and they have, so many people that have way darker skin than me. So, yeah, no, it wouldn't not our black, not foundational. No. I was going to say I heard you say something about we started a new trend. And I laughed because I was like, you know what? Damn it, we just can't help it. That's that Majara spirit.
Yeah, we start trends.
I
It's
mean,
kind.
they're the ones who, really highlighted racist behavior. So we're really just playing into what they want to do anyway. They want to discriminate against Irish people. And Italians, I've heard them doing it around me. And I'm like, what do you say about me when I leave the room? If you're going to sit here and talk about this Greek person like a dog, I didn't understand it. But this English woman, that's how she spoke. She just had hatred toward Italians and Greeks. And I was just listening to her like, wow, you know, what is your problem? You're living in Southern Europe. Who do you think is over here? If you don't like them, why are you here?
You know, it's interesting you say that because now that makes sense. I don't look at it often, but in the past, sometimes I would look up jokes on the internet. And when you come across some of those race and ethnic jokes outside of black, it is interesting what you just said. They have a whole bunch of jokes about Polish people, Italian people, Jewish. They do all this delineating, and they're all based on like stereotypes. And some of it always either goes to them pointed to some black ancestry or some type of like trope about how they manage money or drinking or something. It's just really or religion.
Yeah, it goes back originally to that nurture of um, of the young Adrias of needing to divide to survive. And we're going into a time period. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad said we're going to a time period where, in order to survive, you're going to have your special teams. You're going to have to, basically, you're going to have to unify. This whole divisive nature, this divisive rhetoric, it's not. You're not going to survive in the world that we're entering into. So um, I I look forward to that rhetoric dying off. You know,
Well, you almost see it playing out with Elon right now and Steve Bannon and all this. They both speak with a forked tongue, but it kind of goes back to what one of my friends told me a long time ago. He said the white man has two choices, either greed or racism. So some of them are going to be self serving and they try to convince the knuckle dragging, rank and file, you know, white Jesus, patriotic, Christian loving, broke, rank and file Christian that they need to follow Elon or Trump because he's brilliant. But then you'll have somebody else that just tries to tell them that they need to delineate solely just on racial lines and white privilege or the feeling of having a competitive advantage. But it seems like the greed always overrides rationale. So it kind of reminds me of the Squid Game, ironically.
interesting. But greed goes back to that young Adrias. You know what I'm saying? The hoarding of resources, the hoarding of food. Dr. Sharshi McIntyre said, "We live in a European night. We're living in a European nightmare." But I'm hopeful because, like Wani said at the top of this show, I'm paraphrasing her. The identifier of black was created in diametric opposition to the term white. It was intentionally created in opposition. So now that the tables have turned, I look forward to us creating a new land that's based upon unity as opposed to division. You know, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be us.
No, they have the term dumb Pollock, and they had a lot of jokes. How many Pollocks does it take to screw in a light bulb and all that? And the reason that they had that stereotype is because lots of Eastern Europeans came over to America and they couldn't speak English. Like I said before, they were white, but they could not communicate. And when you can't speak, uh, to other Americans, they don't like you. They call you names and you get menial jobs. So these people, like Polish people, Italian people, a lot of these people didn't prize education. And here we are with all these HBCUs really being interested in learning. It was a point of pride to learn how to read when you were restricted from learning how to read. It's against the law for us to read or be literate, even though many of us did anyway, behind the scenes. They hated our guts. Here we are walking around clothed in nice clothes. You know how we looked in the 20s and 30s and 40s with three-piece suits on, very nice attire. And they're coming over here, broke down peasants on a lice infested ship, having to write an X for their name. They didn't know how to spell their own names. That's why a lot of times, well, white people that you meet, you'll say, "What's your name?" You're going to do their their genealogy, and you look up the meaning of the name, and it's misspelled because they couldn't even spell their name. They put an X, and then the person filling out the name spelled it wrong, especially if you're Polish, because you have all those consonants in your name, and no one knows how to spell it. um, these are some of the things we don't think about because we're so hyper focused on black and white. But there's more to it than that. And I think if we pull back and we say, hey, we're going to define our lineage by this experience that we've had here. We're not going to define it by part of our lineage. We're not going to define it by part of it, the part that sold us into bondage. If we say no, we're going to define it by what it is. It's an ethnogenesis here in North America, not by which you want us to. If we start doing that and then they start thinking about their backgrounds, that's just going to send them into a tailspin because they'll immediately have to submit. They already submit subconsciously to English people, so they're in an English colony and they submit, they get on their knees. You never hear a Swedish person saying, "How come we don't have Swedish history in school?" They don't want to talk about it. Why? You never hear a Polish person. All of these people are here in this country. German people, Polish people, Swedish people, Italian people. Italian people are the only group, and it's funny because even people from Greece are very quiet. You're never going to hear them say, "How come Greek people didn't win an Academy Award? How come Italian people didn't do this?" But they'll pump their fists if they do get an award, but they will never say, "Why didn't I get one?" That's part of being white. Part of being white is that you sit back and you let English people get all the awards, all the accolades, and you take pride in what English people are doing and you like it and you tuck yourself in and you don't stick out. You don't go running around talking about being Polish. In fact, these people anglicize their names. Those French Huguenots
Hmm.
that a lot of us are related to, they changed their names to sound more English. They ethnocided themselves to be English. Okay, and they're not English. We're English, and they're not. That's the funny thing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
We
We have 24% on average English DNA, and Polish people, and Italian people, and Swedish people do not.
yeah.
They have nothing to do with being English.
Yep. And I'm have higher percentage of Englishmen in me because of those raping fields in Aniani, Alabama that got my great great grandmama. It's part of my lineage. Got Englishmen running through my veins. But you bring up a really interesting point that Dr. Howard Zinn brings home on page 237 of his masterpiece. Dr. Zinn says, "How could these new Irish," he's referring to the Irish, "how could these new Irish immigrants, themselves poor and despised, become sympathetic with the black slave?" Who was becoming more and more the center of attention. Now, this is talking about in 1849. Sorry, 1848. So in 1848, we were becoming the center of attention. If you kind of analyze it, like dominoes falling in slow motion, the black slave has been the enslaved formerly enslaved black FBA has been becoming the center of attention, the center of world attention for the last 200 years. Dr. Zen says racial hostility became an easy substitute for class frustration. That's the name of the game. This psychological warfare is damn near perfected. The name of the game, ladies and gentlemen, is don't worry about how fucked up your place is. Don't worry about how fucked up your situation is. Focus on black people. Just focus on them. They're the problem. But how does that work? How do you get a group of people from, say, Ireland, say Poland, or wherever, and say, "Hey, don't worry about your shit. Don't fix your shit. Worry about them. They're the problem." How does that work? Crickets? I don't know. I don't know either. That's why I'm asking. I'm like, how do you? it has to be like kind of like a predatory type of thing. You know what I'm saying? You can have what they got, that type of thing. Anyway, um, I'm gonna get righteous anger up here. I haven't seen her in a while. Righteous anger, what's on your mind? Hey, righteous, you can speak. Good to see you. Righteous anger, can you hear me? Uh oh. Wani, can you hear me? My thing
Yes,
there.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
guys.
No, I thought my thing
Um,
was messing up. You're good.
I had it through my earpiece, and it, you have to switch it back over to your phone. Peace and reparations, family, is the because it should have happened 1 second ago. We're gonna update it. It's 2025. Is the ethnonym black defined by dark skin or melanin? Who killed MLK? They wish they would have killed MLK because it's in all of us. They just lit a fuse. So maybe physically, they did what they did, but I think he's alive and well. Please forgive my voice. But I was thinking, okay, so in 1849, Dr. Zen made that statement. I put in the comments, there's a listing of the wave of immigration. And I don't know if someone can bullet point each of those waves, what was happening during that time for them to keep bringing them in wave after wave. And I think you guys know what I'm saying. I put it in the comments. It gives a breakdown of the immigration. Um, do you guys see it in the comments by chance?
Yeah,
I just can we correlate what was going on for those waves to have been implemented? Why they
mm,
were, you know what I mean? And I fold my chair. Thanks,
I
guys.
I actually like that. I like that that breakdown. Yeah, uh the correlation is to keep to create buffer classes against the black American. Uh,
Yeah, but what was happening during those times? Like, can we date it to say, okay, this was happening, and then when that didn't work, or they needed to, raise the game up some, then they did another wave, and then they did another wave. So I'm just wondering, was that 1849? Um, I'm sure it was amongst the listing of their waves coming in. Maybe you could put it in the jumbo time because maybe nobody knows what I'm saying in the comments. But um, I think that would be really interesting to try to decipher.
I hear you, righteous, and yes, the 1849 were Irish, so it would be your first box. It says high proportion of all immigrants, European, Asian. We did have Chinese immigrants. They were coming over to work on the railroad, but the majority were from Ireland and shortly thereafter Italian. But it was to create buffer class, which leads me to believe that the statistics were off on the amount of Black Americans that were in America. You know.
And you see how they have the counting immigrant generations, because they always say I'm first generation, I'm second. Like, they should be really proud of being a loser, in any category. But then it says the politics of immigrant generations. So I'm just wondering, this bitch America, she got a lot of explaining to do. I'm gonna fold my chair.
Yeah, America. Like I said earlier, James Baldwin said either America's gonna fix that original issue of slavery, or it's gonna,
And
first God, what the Bible say? First God destroyed it with water. Next, he's gonna destroy it with fire. He says it's gonna be the fire next time, and it's all about retribution of slavery.
So what do you think they mean, like in the lyrics of that song when it says, "I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free"?
Ha! Damn.
Are they talking about the free
Well, no,
land?
that's at least I know I'm free, and the colored folks ain't.
you're not.
Damn, Robbie.
We are free, but it's just that they're a thorn in our side for some reason.
Well,
They can't stop being racist, so
Robbie just
Well, who wrote the song?
what Robbie made me think about was page 177 of Dr. Howard Zinn's book, where he brilliantly says the need for slave control led to an ingenious device, paying poor whites themselves so troublesome for 200 years of Southern history to be overseers of black labor and therefore buffers for black hatred. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. That's what he's talking about.
When were they not free? You mean broke down and peasants?
Broke down in peasants, exactly, Monty.
They weren't enslaved, they were just broke, unless they were Slavics.
That's a good point. But
Now, be fair, they did have 2 cents in their pockets.
to rub together.
That is true.
But it rings true that at least I know well at least I know I'm not black. That's really what Dr. Zen is saying.
Imagine singing about being free. Huh.
Well, the way I look at it is when they say that, because you think of the first part, proud to be an American. Because really, what I had mentioned this once before, when people hear American, they don't think of a black face. They don't think of black people. You picture a white person. So when that person is singing that song, they're thinking they're thinking, I'm proud. To me, what I hear is proud to be an American, proud to be white. That's just, when I hear them sing that song, that's what I think of, because they're like, yeah, I'm proud to not be black,
I
because,
don't think of when I think of America, I don't think of white.
well, not us, we don't, but I'm saying
Know
like
what I
other
mean?
people
When I
on the
think of
outside.
Australia, when I think about Australia, I think of it just how it is. It's white
Uh-huh.
people that took over Australia from Aboriginal people and some immigrants that they let come over there of recent days. I
I
think the
think,
same thing when I think
uh,
about America. I think about Native Americans, I think about Black Americans, and I don't, they're not the face of America to me. That's interesting.
right
I
now,
think
us,
the
we're
face of
not. Yeah.
America has shifted into saying the foundational black American. Probably.
It was something. I think it's because there was something I was watching, or some video a while back, and they were showing all the different like countries and stuff. And when the USA was flashed up there, it was like some blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman dressed in a cowboy outfit with the USA, with the red, white, and blue on. So, and that's the thing. And I was like, and the funny thing is the first thing that came to me was, oh, that's how y'all think of it. That's how y'all think of America. That's what you
That's
guys
their
think.
dream. That's
So
their
that's
dream
why.
image.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Yes.
absolutely right.
And again, cowboys are black. Again, they can't do one single thing or image or aesthetic that doesn't have something to do with us. That's what's so sad about being them. They don't
Right.
exist. They
We
simply
know this.
don't
That's that
exist.
propaganda. You're absolutely right. That's that propaganda they keep trying to push out there. So yeah.
Because they said they were cattlemen and they said we were houseboys and uh, cowboys and everything was a boy. And now they want to be cowboys and cowgirls all of a sudden. What happened to being cattlemen? What happened to being ranchmen? Why do you want to be a cowboy? Huh? Why do you want to be a nigga? Huh?
Because
Why do
they
you need
had
to say
swag.
that? Why do
Bingo,
you
the
need to say
swag.
that word? Why are you even in the conversation? That's what
Cattlemen
I
wasn't
want
as
to know.
cool. Cattlemen wasn't as cool sounding. Cowboys had that swag. Of course they want to be us.
Cowboys still have that swag. We're gonna give last words to Sotar. Sotar, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I think it was more the skill that they had, not the swag. But regardless, no, I think the reason Irish had issues. Remember, the Irish were forced to fight in the Civil War, and so I got like one of my wrestling coaches, the Irish guy. He complained to me. I don't think he knew where he was me, but he said, you know what, they forced my people to fight in the Civil War after they just got here, and I'm like, motherfucker, y'all chose to come to this country. There's a price you're gonna have to pay. And I hate when immigrants say that shit. It's like I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I
Why
would.
do people say that? Well, I've heard Africans say, "Oh my God, we had to leave. We were going to have to fight." Well, what do you think we've been doing over here, fighting in every war
Fighting,
that this
fighting,
country?
fighting, fighting,
Are
fighting.
you kidding me? They were going. We could have gotten killed. Well, we did get killed. What are you talking about? That's the price you have to pay.
Yeah, and I think it's so fucked up. I call them bitches to their face with them. I said, man, I would literally die to go back in time to go be a SEAL. I would literally die, even if I died in combat. I would just love to just go back and get that experience. And they just run away like bitches because they want to be a doctor or lawyer. Not saying that's not all right, but I'm saying like they don't want to fight for anything. I think it's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and you don't want people around you. Going back to what our brother Tariq said about strategic alliances, one part about our delineation is we need to be real. In my pro se opinion, I think it would be very prudent for us to only surround ourselves with people who have a history of fighting, and a history of fighting for what they believe in. Like, say, think of groups like 1804, the Haitian Rebellion. They have a history of fighting for what they believe in. It would be beneficial for us to surround ourselves with groups of people who have a history of fighting, and avoiding people who have a history of not fighting, because people who don't fight are dangerous. They come up close to you, get in your circle, and turn on you. It's happened to me academically several times with people from Nigeria. Where's a history of rebellion in Nigeria? Is there one?
Uh, well, they cut each other's heads off. I
They
don't know if
fight
that's
each other. Oh, okay. Got you. Got you. That doesn't count, Wani.
They fight the shower. They
They
fight the
fight what?
shower.
They
The
fight the
shower.
shower. I'm
Ooh,
not fucking with you, Robbie.
remember the Cash App of Fulani.
Oh Lord. Um,
Those machetes are not going to sharpen
should I
themselves.
get one more? Let's see what Daquan boy. We got a new speaker. Let's get Daquan and then hold on one second. All right, Daquan, what's on your mind, brother? Daquan Boyd. Oh, he's having issues. Okay. DJ Big A, did you want to come up and speak? Okay, there goes Daquan. Go ahead. What's on your mind, Daquan?
Just wanted to take the time to reflect on Dr. King's death and the legacy that he left. But I just wanted to go.
Oh, he must be
What
having some.
happened?
He's having some issues, I think, with.
That scared me for a second. I thought the space went down. I said, no.
Yeah. Well, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, is the ethnonym. That's the word ethnonym, black, defined by dark skin or melanin. The answer is no. What is black? What is the word ethnonym black come from? The ethnonym black comes from an amalgamation of a group of people who all came together and mixed up to form a new group. A plus B equals C, a brand new group, which arguably is the only original group amalgamated in the United States of America, referred to as the Black or Foundational Black American. Any closing remarks?
Just to review, we're no different than other groups of people that have a range of color, and nobody would say, I'm more Cuban than you, or I'm more Puerto Rican than you, or I'm more Dominican Republic than you, and they wouldn't say, I'm more colored than you. We were called colored. That indicates a mix, just like it indicates that in South Africa. So no one was more colored than another person. But we chose the word black for a power statement. We embraced it. And therefore, when we start speaking about people outside of the lineage, Africans don't fall under that. They don't fall under that color, because scientifically, there's no such thing as a black race or a white race. That's not scientific. They never called them that. They simply said a Nigerian would be an African, a Chinese person would be an Asian.
Right.
See? A white person or an English person would be Caucasian, and a black person is an individual with multiple backgrounds. So we are not the same race as Africans. They're not black, just like they were not colored, and they don't even know what black means. They think it has something to do with coloring, and that's where they're wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Right on.
Well, I'll just say this. They may debate with us about black, whether that is a black or African immigrant or even some of these other immigrant groups. But one way we can tell who's of our lineage and who's not, or who's belongs in American or not, we can distinguish them from the yellow stripe on their back. And I'll land my
Be
plane.
careful with cowardice people. A coward will get you killed. Indy, you have last words.
Yeah, that's great. I had last word. I came in kind of late.
It's all good.
But I just wanted to know, Professor, if we could do, or you and Wani could do a space uh sometime this week on the report that the DOJ released about the Tulsa massacre.
Okay.
And I was watching the video, and it was brought up, it's funny how they released this report on Friday, but look at everything that was going on in the country, and they chose to release it on Friday. It was snowstorms in the South, fires in the West, damn, Jimmy Carter had died, Drake suing white folks about hip hop. I mean, it was so many distractions going on, major news events, and here come the DOJ officer. Oh, let us show y'all how we terrorize black people and had us in concert. I didn't even know that they had niggas in concentration camps, because that be the argument from some of these small hat folks, don't it? Oh, well, our people was in concentration camp. You want it? Oh, but this Tulsa report clearly says black folks were in concentration camps, and they dropped nitroglycerin on their buildings before they set them on fire, and had Negroes going around picking up the bodies to bury them, then subjugated them, told them they could only make 25 cents a day, but was charging them 20 cents for meals while they were working. Man, read this goddamn report, bro. Like, I want to
That's a bit.
understand why the Democrats or nobody, y'all sitting up there and won't do reparations, but this report come out and y'all ain't got reparations. Should damn be immediate right now.
Well,
Reading that motherfucking report, bro.
well,
I'm pissed the fuck
we
off.
And
I'm pissed off about that shit.
they should have definitely given those people reparations for that Tulsa incident. So they were already showing their ass right there. Yeah, sure, we'll do a room on it. I did see that a report came out, but like you said, all kinds of things were happening, and I didn't read it like
Yeah,
you
that was
did.
intentional,
You
Wani.
get
I missed it too.
infuriated.
Like, that was intentional for us not to get that.
well,
That was intentional.
Andy,
Cause they could have dropped that anytime.
Andy,
That happened in 1921.
Andy, do
Why
me a
they wait to
favor.
drop it?
Go ahead and DM me the report so I can brief myself on it. And I'll go from there. Our brother Tariq has said something real powerful. We need more black attorneys. A lot of people are not going to law school. A lot of people. Period. Law school enrollment is down. But I want to remind y'all before we conclude tonight that the Japanese got their reparations for the internment camps by three Japanese law students. So we need to make use of our law students. Maybe we need to create another. When I was in law school, it was a Black Law Student Association, which surprisingly, most of the Black Law Student Association at my school were white people. We need some type of maybe a reparations law group. Maybe I shouldn't even say that on X, but you know what? I'm gonna look into trying to create some type of group for Black law students to study this. We never make use of our law students. So I'm
We
gonna look.
have plenty of evidence. We don't need any more studies. They have a 500-page report
Right.
in California regarding reparations. So this is just Indy. I know all about a lot of these things, um, these attacks. We have faced genocide, we have faced waves of ethnocide, and they just can't get out of it. So all they can do is just, have these troll farms coming up saying little stupid things. Don't worry, we'll get it together and we'll definitely do the room.
Yeah,
Okay.
Wani, like you were saying though, like it's like there was so many things happening simultaneously around the country. That was like you said, that wasn't the only Tulsa massacre. It was so many other states worse shit was going on. These motherfuckers was doing this shit all terrorizing all over. And I cannot believe that we got people of our lineage in Congress ignoring this, like, and don't want the push for reparation. That shit is a problem.
That's why we have to get rid of them. They're paid opposition.
Right.
They're blocking. We need a laxative to get rid of them.
I like that analogy, a laxative. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we've discussed some powerful ideas and more importantly, we've come up with some solutions. Our sister Wani said we need a
I put something in the chat too, Professor. A link to the report.
appreciate it, brother. A political laxative. Woo! We need a political laxative. The black, you got a quick comment?
Yeah, yeah. How's everybody doing? Uh, Professor
You're
Bonnie, everybody
muffled.
else. Huh? I'm
I
muffled.
can barely hear you,
Can you
bro.
hear me now?
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little better.
really?
Oh,
Do you have on a headset?
Yeah, it sounds like he
can
got
can
Bluetooth or
can you hear me
something.
now?
That's
It's
better.
Hmm.
Yeah, it seemed like Wani quoted the Joker from Batman. This town needs an enema.
I love it, Wani. A political laxative. I love it. All right, go ahead, make your submissive, black.
Yeah, yeah.
Enemas
I
are
was just
more
gonna
violent.
say, that I understand the passion that Indies have and a lot of our people have, and I know me and him probably around the same age, early 30s or a little younger,
No,
and
I'm 44, bro.
oh well, you somewhat in the same range between the 40s and in early 30s, and I'm noticing, especially like in my community and the people that I talk to, that is this notion of, I understand that we have to go through things in certain ways, but a lot of us is really like to the point where we don't give a damn. I understand it. It may be sounding fucked up sometimes, but yeah, a lot of I noticed that a lot of our, especially our youth, are ready to crash out, and the it's hard to try to derail some people from that train of thought sometimes, especially when it, some people may not feel like it's any hope, and those who are trying to install hope starting to lose it too when it comes down to just all the propaganda or people lollygagging, or just sometimes it's the unseriousness of what people want, or people just not actually applying the methods or strategies that they learn to make things happen. So I understand the passion of my brother and a lot of people, because it is to a point where people are fed up, and it's like a thermometer to one of them old school was when you don't used it too much, it just busts. And now it's like if we don't come to a solution, it's either we gonna continue to faction in these different ideologies and sectors, and we gonna lose our essence of what we truly are and what we trying to protect and gatekeep it. And it's gonna be like, I ain't gonna say it's gonna be all done for nothing what our elders done in the previous generations, but yeah, I see a lot of people just saying fuck it and want to check out. So I just want to know, like, in the future, we can we have like more uh like some more critical thinking strategies, so people can actually like do some home. When I mean homework, like do some things that they can at least uh apply to their community if they don't have any money, or just have a couple of $100 that they can spur to start little things to build community coalitions within the people in their lineage that they find. It, that's all I want. I hope everybody blessed and having a great day. And Arthur, shout out to you for uh notifying the sister about the generosity that these people did with this flyer and stuff. And I hope everybody have a good night.
Hey, Professor, can I add something real quick?
No, we about to close. You got
Just
like 10
just
seconds.
just
Go ahead.
just real quick. What the Black Receipt just spoke on. I just want to speak on a quick solution.
Okay.
Uh, it would be dope with the scholarship that you and Wani are doing every night. You know what would be dope if y'all got together, we added a few more people to the panel and went on a re-indoctrination tour and go city to city with programming during Black History Month. Just identify cities and do a program in different cities around America and discuss this DOJ report and just charge something simple because you know black folks broke, so charge $5 to get in and then send around when you get a packed house, you send around the damn collection plate like you at motherfucking church. And I think we just fuck just Black History Month alone. Like we need to continue that and come off this app and do a re-indoctrination tour. That's what I'm calling it because the indoctrination has been so heavy with misinformation and just straight lies, it spilled over into tethers. You see how they come in our room and got a misconception about who we are or the history of America? That's why they talk to us like that. I've talked to several people from Africa or the continent before, and they don't even know, you know, the rich history of everything that we've been through, and they be trying to come over here and acclimate or not acclimate or join white supremacy, but they don't even know the extent of what they fucking doing. So there needs to be a re-indoctrination tool, and I would support y'all on that with logistics, flyers, hotels. We'll figure it out,
We're gonna
but we need to support something like that.
brother.
I will too,
we-
for
We're
sure,
gonna
for
we're
sure.
gonna figure it out. I'm gonna go ahead and look over that report, and I'll be getting back with you. And we're gonna close the space. I enjoyed y'all today. I learned a lot, and I heard some solutions, and I heard a new term. We need a political laxative. That belongs to Wani Spots. Political laxative. I'm getting an idea for another room.
I like political enema better.
It's
It's more violent.
more violent. All right, ladies and gentlemen. See y'all later on Tariq's face. Peace out.